So we will have that fun.
You got any water handy just in case?
I do. I'm juiced up.
Mm.
Water and juice. All right, in 3, 2, 1. Hey, welcome to another episode of ResiWeek at AV Nation. I am your host, Matt D. Scott. I'm filling in for my good friend Tim Albright, who is traveling the globe right now and leaving me to do all his work, which is fairly normal. So today with us, we've got a couple of my good friends. First of all, we've got Jason Knott from CE Pro. How are you doing today, Jason?
I'm doing great, Matt.
Excellent. And then we have a real good friend of mine. We go back way too long, really. Stephen Bronner from Pro Audio Georgia. How you doing today, bud?
I'm doing outstanding, man. Just glad to be here, my friend.
You look like you're on site working.
As usual, almost every time I talk to you guys, I'm on site.
That's good. That's how it works. That's how we make the money. All right, so let's kick this off. We've got a couple of stories on the docket, and as soon as I get my screen share to work, I'll pull them up. We're going to start off with an EFF story about unlocking the box. Now, this is an interesting story and a timely story for us as AV Nation. We've just recently become approved to be partners with EFF, and this is something that the majority of us in the AV Nation group really agree with, and it's a cause that we're really behind. But specifically with this story, excuse me, they are writing about, and they wrote a letter and essentially a petition to the FCC, just reiterating the fact that we as consumers are really looking forward to unlocking the box and getting rid of those set-top boxes, or at least making that content available to subscribers in other forms other than strictly their box. And if you read the article, which will be posted in the links, they're really talking about how, as so much technology has become more and more affordable, et cetera, set-top boxes continue to be increasing in price and seemingly being very behind technology-wise. So Jason, as somebody who's constantly writing about the industry and obviously reading about this stuff, what's your take on what EFF is proposing here and the FCC's response to it?
Well, looking at it not just being advantageous from the consumer perspective, but for integrators who are the CE Pro audience, this is a super big deal also, because one of the things that's very frustrating for the custom integration community is they spend countless hours and countless amounts of manpower and energy to design these beautiful systems for their customers and their clients, only to be able to take them 90-some-odd% of the way and then having to hand off kind of that final connectivity tier to the cable company. And in many cases, one, it's not good for the integrator because he wants to be that one-stop shop who's going to bring a completely working, fully functional system to his customer, not just from a theater standpoint for Blu-ray, etc., and music 2-channel, but also for cable connectivity and all the programs they want to watch. And they've been able to bring them to that edge, and then they have to hand it off to the customer to have that interaction directly with the cable company. The other element is the potential for a potentially unskilled technician who works for the cable company coming in and quote unquote maybe mucking up all their work or reconfiguring things or whatever it might be. So from the integrator standpoint, this should be a really big deal, not just that it frees the customer up to be able to go to different sources of content, but also for the integrator, he should be really supporting something like this, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would say that's definitely something that myself as an integrator, this is always a huge deal for us. Is we love to tell the customer that one of the smallest and biggest issues that we always run into is we have no control over that cable co box, and a lot of times that's where we run into problems. Stephen, you're in the same boat. You're an integrator. How is this affecting you?
Anytime that we do exactly what he said, we take it 90% of the way and then have to hand it off. And it doesn't really matter who the company is. Comcast, Uverse, people always say, oh, this company sucks, this company's great. The truth is, None of them are great.
They're all
It is, yeah, it's all overblown. So whenever you're working with a system and you go through all the trouble to design the system, and then every time the client turns it on, it's kind of a hope and a prayer that that cable box is going to work. It's, you hope it works, and most of the time it does. But if it doesn't work, the client doesn't call Comcast and say, "Hey, my TV's not working." They call you and they say, "My TV's not working." And I have a project right now where I've got 6 of said boxes from a certain company on a project. I have literally had to put the boxes on remote power control, my Blue Bolt, so that I can dial in and reset them, and they are resetting every night at 1 a.m. in order to keep them online and functioning. So if we could get rid of that, and we could say, here, customer, you can have this box, and you can get the content that you're looking for. Yeah, you may have to pay for it, but the box itself is not locked down. We can supply our own box and then tell the cable company, here, this is the serial number, the MAC ID of this box, use our box. Then we have up-to-date technology, we have good control codes, we have a better quality video and audio feed going to our system. It's just a better thing, but there again, you're releasing that control. You're telling the cable company or the utility of your choice, hey, give us this control and you just provide us the content. You would think they would want to do it. I answered a question very similar to this a few episodes ago. You would think that the cable company or AT&T, whatever, would want to say, hey, take the device liability off of us. We supply you the signal, you supply the device. Now that's less maintenance we have to do, but for some reason they will not relinquish.
And I would say the majority of that most likely stems from the fact that they get, I don't know what it is down there, but I know up here for an HD terminal, it's a minimum of $15 to $16 a month.
Right.
And like even in my house where I have myself, my wife, and a baby who, albeit loves remotes, doesn't really know what to do with them yet. We've got 2 HD boxes and 3, little cable converters for the guest rooms, and
right.
Our monthly bill just in rental alone is like almost $40. $40.
Right, and it is a revenue stream, but it doesn't seem right to, if you went to your client and you said, in order for you to do business with me, you have to use this particular device. Now, we do that to some extent with control systems and other things. Oftentimes, we'll go to a client, we'll say, we use this, whether it be RTI, Crestron, AMX, whatever your choice is, control for. But to go to your client and say, in order to do business with me, you have to use this. And they say, okay, I want to choose somebody else then, but everybody has to use that. That takes the choice away from the client. And if you're supplying garbage boxes, to me, that's just no way to treat a client. It just isn't. And we make our money off of customer service. They make their money basically, for lack of a better way to put it, it's like mob style tactics. You'll pay me this week, or you'll use my box, or you won't get my service, and it really sucks.
Matt, I feel your pain. We have 6 televisions and 6 cable boxes at my house. But let me be the pessimist in here, because I know the EFF piece addresses it and talks about consumer pricing and that sort of stuff, which I think is obviously a key element besides just the control issue that Stephen was talking about. But the pessimist in me says that even if this happens, the cable company is going to figure out another way to charge. And all I can think of is the luggage fees at the airport and how those just started, and all of a sudden it's this new revenue. I'm not convinced that if this did happen, that cable bills would go down. That's just my 2 cents.
No, and I don't think they will either. I think it'll be something akin to the utility companies where if you stop using their boxes, they'll start charging you a delivery fee or an access fee on top of everything else.
Yeah.
This is always one of those never-ending arguments that we are, going from back and forth over, who makes the better box, who makes the worst box, which box is least controllable, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And, I think we'll have this debate for years to come, because I don't I don't see it moving anywhere quickly.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, I think ultimately it's the fact that it's a greater quality control issue for the integrator. It's better for the customer. You know, the pie in the sky part of it tells me that there could eventually be a reduction in the cost, but I'm a skeptic in terms of that, and I kind of think that somehow the cable company is going to figure out a way to charge back, just like you said, and even if that happens, that's okay. Maybe the cost stays the same, and we get to a point where the integrator does have that greater control with his customer and the ability to serve him better. But I wouldn't hold my breath waiting for it to become cheaper.
Well, and I think it's one of those things where if for most consumers and definitely most integrators, they would be okay with the cost staying the same because anyone who's shelling out, $200, $300 a month in cable and internet is already, albeit a little crazy as far as being comfortable spending that much money on it. I think we'd be okay with it if we had better control over what we were doing. But
yep, I agree.
let's just to wrap that part up. We also had an article from CNET, which is talking about President Obama adding his support to the FCC's edict to go to a standardized cable box, so not the same, but pretty much, and Comcast being ready to provide a open format, which was right along that line. Is this something that we actually see happening down the road? Stephen, I'll throw that to you.
I would love for that to happen. Honestly, that would be great. I am very skeptical when it comes to when the FCC, any government organization says we're the government and we're here to help. I'm very skeptical. You can quote Mr. Reagan on that one. So whenever we get down to it, I think it's a great idea. I think it needs to be done. I hope that they move forward. But for me to say that I think that Comcast is going to head the industry in something that's based on customer service is, I think, is a stretch. And we'll see how it comes out. But you hope for the best.
Yeah, and I this is one of those lovely things where it looks great in a press release. But let's see where it goes from there.
By the way, let me add one other thing. One of the alternatives that's kind of always been out there for integrators that is an option in this whole scenario that often gets overlooked is the ability to bring in a device like a Tivo Bolt with a cable card in it that also can handle apps, also can handle over-the-air broadcasts, also can handle over-the-top streaming from Amazon Prime, Netflix, Hulu Plus, and those sorts of things. The integrator has more control, and he's eliminated that wild card of the cable company, and he's brought a single function, single searchable interface that incorporates all those different sources I just mentioned to the customer. The one thing it doesn't do is save them the cost, that cost part of it we were talking about. But there is an option out there, and it's the Tivo Bolt's a 4K device even too. So just throwing that out.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I had thought of that previously in our conversation about this and just glossed over. Stephen, is the Tivo, because we don't have that option up here. We don't have cable cards. We don't have Tivos. So I have no experience with them whatsoever. Stephen, is that something that your clients are interested in, or is that something that you ever look at offering?
It is, and we do Tivo boxes whenever the client is okay with it. We always bring it up. The downside with the Tivo box is it only works with the cable company. So you have a lot of people that have decided on every side, whether it be Comcast, Charter, Uverse, there are people that don't like those particular companies. Right. So it would be nice if there was a box that had a cable jack, like a Tivo, that had a cable jack and it had a phone jack on it, so you could do Uverse or cable with it. But the Tivo box works really well if you're doing cable. The flip side of that is, honestly, as an integrator, I try to put my clients on DirecTV anytime I can. So if I have control over what service they use, it's always DirecTV. the service. They have better channels. You're not constantly worried about them losing the channels. I was watching a friend's Dish Network maybe 3 weeks ago, and a thing flashed across the bottom of the screen that said, "Do you like ABC? If you like your ABC network, call Dish Network and tell them not to." I was like, ABC, that's a major network. How are you living? But, I mean, it is. So we always push people to DirecTV. The boxes are better, still not foolproof.
Right.
But it would be nice if there was a Tivo box that would work with satellite, cable, or UVerse. That's what I'm waiting on.
Right. It doesn't work with satellite or UVerse right now. You're right.
Yeah. So that would be the box to have. If Tivo came out with a box that I could plug in my UVerse, or I could hook to my satellite.
So again, a fully brand agnostic Tivo box.
Yeah. Honestly, I would probably never hook up another cable box. Literally, that would be the game changer. But we'll see how it works out. I mean, with the DirecTV, you even get two-way feedback. They've got two-way IP controls, so you can. Right. There's all kinds of neat stuff with it. So I just wish there was a box that would do all that with UVerse and with.
We need our Sat Cable Wonder box is what we're looking for. All right, moving on to a CE Pro article that we have that was written by the wonderful Julie Jacobson, talking about. Let me just bring that up real quick. Oh, you're getting my whole screen there. My lovely background. Talking about IC RealTime, who most integrators know as one of the founders of, or one of the very effective founders of CCTV and digital CCTV and all that fun stuff, and makers of a very good product. They were at NAB this week, which is a show that I've always loved going to, and they showed off a 360-degree camera, which is not out of the ordinary for them. They've had those for a couple of years, but they showed it off with an immersive sharing feature that allowed you to live stream that footage direct to YouTube. This is a really cool, albeit interesting application. Jason, what's your? I don't know. Were you at NAB, Jason?
I wasn't, but they had also showed this at ISC West a couple weeks ago, which is a big security show in Vegas, which I was at. And so one of the significance of this is, as you mentioned, Matt, it's not that the fact that they've created a 360-degree camera, which is kind of another line in this trend of where integrators are now able to do secure camera applications, video surveillance, and avoid having to put in multiple cameras in some cases, or cameras with pan tilt zooms, because they can use these 360s. Right. But the beauty of this application is that it's not gobbling up the bandwidth, and that it's and again, the technology part's going to be way over my head in terms of exactly what they're doing, but the idea is that they're actually quote-unquote de-warping the signal within the camera itself, and they're not it's not gobbling up bandwidth, and you're able to do something like this YouTube sharing feature. So it's just another sign of where cameras have broken down this barrier on the residential space, where it used to be a 1% part of the market. Cameras were 1% of residential, accounted for 1% of all cameras. Now it's something like 13, 14%, and I see it just growing and growing. And I also see integrators having a great opportunity to be able to go to their customers with cloud-based storage capabilities for video surveillance images as a big RMR opportunity, recurring monthly revenue opportunity. So there's so much happening in the camera space. It's exciting.
Now, are you seeing that specifically to just the camera space, or also this 360-degree and live streaming capability?
Well, this will be interesting because I'm not really sure where this is going to fit in for the integrator.
The use cases?
Yeah, because it's kind of a cool gadget function, and the homeowner can do it, or their application showed a balcony in Miami that they were showing, just the city of Miami, that's live streaming onto YouTube from the security camera. So, but the key is that a lot of the new generation, the millennials want they want to be able to access the information on their own devices, right, versus to run through a central station. So this kind of allows them to do that through YouTube, and not, again, have the Miami thing that they have on the website is like an hour and 20 minutes on a YouTube channel versus,
Right.
the time limitation that used to be in terms of what you could put on YouTube. So it just shows you how much farther they've come in terms of being able to squeeze out all that bandwidth and being able to produce more images.
Now, Stephen, are you seeing a massive push from your customers to either A, go with CCTV options, or B, going with CCTV options as well as things like this 360-degree camera and the cloud storage capability side of it? Where are you seeing this going for yourself?
Well, I haven't actually dug into the 360 camera. That's a cool, for lack of a better way to put it, kind of a cool toy to me.
Mhm.
I think that it would be really neat to have. If I owned a retail space, I would definitely put one over my register,
I got
because
people using them over registers for years. They're fantastic.
yeah, instead of having to have like three different cameras to catch all the angles, now you've
Mhm.
got one camera and it catches everything. But as far as the CCTV goes, we've been selling IC RealTime now for about 4 years. We love their products. Their products are rock solid and they integrate well. I would actually go so far as to say, as from an integration standpoint, they're probably the best camera system I've worked with. They're rock solid. The picture quality is good, and some of their products have 10-year warranties, which is almost unheard of. So I would say that I have, of my current projects, probably 50% of them have some kind of CCTV on it.
Okay.
Some of them are one camera, and then I've got one that's 24 IP cameras, 2 megapixel IP cameras. You have people now that see things on commercials like the Ring video doorbell, and they say, "Oh, I can see who's at my door, and I can do this," and you say, "Yeah, you can do that," but it never fails. They get one camera, and then they say, "Well, what about my driveway? Well, what about this? What about that?" And that's the quickest way to get into multiple cameras. So
Mhm.
we're using the IC Real-Time product. I support companies that support our industry. They're at CEDIA every year. I'm a big fan of that. So I think that as things progress and as people become more and more security conscious, these companies, camera sales from all different companies, is going to skyrocket. That is what people want, and they understand that they sell things that say, "Hey, you can plug this in and it works." The problem is you hear things like wireless cameras. Look at the drop cam. That was sold as a wireless camera. And you pull it out of the box, and guess what's attached to it? A wire. You have to plug it in. So, these wireless technology clients are starting to understand, wait a minute, it's not that simple. Or, hey, I can put this camera over here, but it doesn't see what I want it to see. So they depend on us to know that. And unlike in the past where you could be a home theater company or an AV company and never touch security or CCTV
Mhm.
or anything, now you have to know how to integrate thermostats. You have to know how to integrate lighting. You have to know how to do cameras. You have to know how to do everything, because even if they bring the security company in and that company does the cameras, you have to know how to integrate that with your system so that it's one seamless experience for your client.
Right. Right. And speaking of integrating, let's finish this up with our last story of the day, which comes to us from Residential Systems, and it's a topic that we seem to be hitting just about every week right now as we're leading into Infocom and CEDIA later on in the year. Excuse me. Legrand made a bit of a splash earlier last week when they picked up Luxo Wireless, and this is the second networking acquisition in the month, I think.
Yes, the other
Well,
one broke my heart.
oh, I'm sorry. You okay?
Yes,
Do you need a hug?
I I need a hug for real.
But this is speaking to a larger thing of finally, after, I've been involved in this industry for over 15 years now and active within, the industry easily over the last 7 or 8 years. And we've always talked about integration. We've always talked about the AV IT coming together, and we're really starting to. I hate to say we're really starting to see it now, but we are really starting to see it when we have some of these major players come in and pick up all these other networking firms. Legrand's made a couple of splashes over the last little bit as they've picked up a couple of companies and continued to grow their roster, and they've done the same with Luxel. Stephen, why do you think people are picking up networking lines, and why do you think that's become so important to industry players?
Well, because the systems that we put in cannot use off-the-shelf stuff out of Best Buy anymore. For years and years, you could go, and I never recommended it. It was never a great, stable platform, but you could go into Best Buy, spend $100, $125 on a Netgear or Linksys or Belkin, whatever, and bring it home, and you could run your iPad over the Wi-Fi, and there wasn't much traffic. You didn't have all these streaming devices.
Mm-hmm.
And now networking has become the backbone. If you're not networking in your projects, then you don't really have control over your projects. I remember a few years back the slogan, own the network, own the home. I think that was a Obsidian slogan. So the reason why these companies are gobbling them up is because they realize that it has become a backbone. We need the network just as much as we need speaker wires. We need the network because everything is on the network. If your network goes down, you're done. So these companies are realizing, if we offer the networking company, and in Legrand's case, they have, Middle Atlantic, they have all these other brands. Basically, it brings you back under their roof. So now you're already shopping with Legrand, and you're like, okay, I need a rack. Well, if you're already under that umbrella, then why not just use a Middle Atlantic rack? That's the same thing that other companies have done. Snap AV, Control 4, these other companies, they've gone out and they've said, with Snap AV, they bought Sunbright TVs because they wanted to offer an outdoor TV. These companies, Control 4, bought Package. They understand that if you can control the network, you control your dealers. That is, we have to have solid networks, and I think it's a great play. Don't get me wrong. I think it is an amazing realization of our industry and the different manufacturers that, wait a minute, this is how the industry works. They're no longer telling us, well, this is how we think you guys work. They're now looking at the industry and going, oh, wait a minute, everybody's buying networking gear. We want to be a networking company. I hope in the same case with Package. My hope is that when they get acquired by these other companies, that the service and the quality stays up. That's my only concern, and I've yet to see a networking company be bought by a company and me think to myself, yay, that's a high quality company. But now we have Legrand, who has purchased Luxel, and I actually love a lot of Legrand's products. I'm a racking fool. I rack everything. So Middle Atlantic there's Middle Atlantic parts laying all over my office, different custom rack shelves and blank plates and other things. So I have a good feeling about Legrand, so I'm hoping this goes well, but that's why. They're doing it purely because everybody has to have it.
Right. Now, Jason, you're obviously writing about this stuff and being right in the mix of what's going on. Do you see this trend continuing? Do you see some of the other major conglomerates picking up the few remaining small town, or not small, but smaller networking firms as they're going forward?
Yeah, I see acquisitions in general continuing, and to Stephen's worry there in regards to what's going to happen with companies. The one good thing out of this, not the one, but one good thing out of this is Legrand's track record with the companies that they've bought recently, being Middle Atlantic, Q Motion Shades. They tend to let those companies continue to operate independently. They aren't mucking up the R&D and those sorts of things. And one of the strategies, I believe, the key strategic play here is purely and simply customer sharing. And we saw it a couple weeks ago. I was at the ASION Buying Group conference down in Phoenix, and it was the unveiling of a joint program called Better Together between QMotion and Vantage. So nobody's changing any sort of technology. It's just a matter of, here's a program that we're putting together to encourage people to buy more than one of these brands. You see it with core brands. You see it with a lot of the other, with Snap AV with all their individual brands. But for the most part, you could see some exceptions with Legrand, like they've very closely integrated Nuvo and OnQ, which were two companies they bought a while back. But for the most part, they've let the brands maintain their independent identities, and it's purely just been a play of trying to get customers, integrators, to buy multiple products. But to answer your question, Matt, yeah, I think acquisitions in general are going to continue across the board.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's a trend that we're continuing to see, and as our market continues to grow, I think we're going to get to that point where not that there's no small players anymore, but we already are such a small market that we're just going to see more and more companies coming together and partnerships arising and going from there. So that's all the time we have for this week's ResiWeek. First of all, I want to thank my guests for coming. Jason, where can people find you and connect with you?
You can email me at jknott, that's JKNOTT, at ehpub.com. You can follow me on Twitter, which is at JasonWKnott. And of course, you can go to cepro.com and reach me through the website.
Beautiful. And Stephen, thanks so much for being on the show, my friend. Where can people find you?
Pretty easy to find, Stephen E. Bronner. You can just, wherever you look. I'm on Twitter, ProAudio_Georgia. The website is proaudiogeorgia.com. Look me up, give me a shout. I love to work with other integrators. I love to work with people in the industry. If you have a question about a line that I carry, please feel free to give me a shout. I really enjoy it. That's one of my passions.
Beautiful. All right, well, thank you again both for being on the show. As for myself, you can find me pretty much anywhere at Matt D. Scott on Twitter, as well as at OmegaAudioVideo.com. But more importantly, because it's really not about me, follow avnation.tv and please visit the website. There you can find this show as well as a host of other shows, including AV Week, and one of the other shows that I'm a part of is the App Show, which is always a good time. But definitely check us out, connect with us there. And coming up, probably our most current next event will be InfoComm. So any of the residential dealers that also work in the commercial space a little bit, definitely connect with us there in Vegas. It'll be a great show. But again, for more information, please visit avnation.tv, and we'll look forward to seeing you next week.
Thanks, guys.